What's going on, all you weirdos, and welcome back to Torpedoes and Tarantulas 2. I'm your host, Jeff, and this video is long overdue, so let's just jump right into it. Many of you, if you've been watching my channel for a while, know that I started a few months ago, I started a collection tour series of videos where I would present several specimens, talk about where they're from, their distribution, the care, and my experience with them. Well, as you can see, we didn't get very far because I started with the New Worlds and I started alphabetically, and we're just now breaking out of the B's. Today we're going to get into the C's, the D's, the E's, and the G's. So we got 5 specimens here for you, all New Worlds. I'll talk a little bit about like where they're from and everything, and their care, and then my experience. And that will be the end of the video. So to start out, we have what is pretty recognizable to most people in the hobby, the Chromatopelma cyaneopubescens, also known as the GBB or the green bottle blue tarantula. Was actually my first tarantula. He matured out male and then died. Shortly after he died, I was able to procure this female from an individual for a hell of a price. She's been in my care for 2.5 years probably, and has molted a couple of times. So she is a mature female. I'm not sure how old she is. So let's talk a little bit about the Chromatopelma cyaneopubescens. They are from Venezuela, and the northern coast of Venezuela, and their habitat is pretty much like undergrowth. They live in the underbrush, so they are, some people would say they're like semi-arboreal, but I don't think they really get far enough off the ground to be semi-arboreal, but they are extremely terrestrial and not at all fossorial. And as you can see, and one of the reasons why they are so popular in the hobby is the fact that they are very heavy webbers. There's quite a bit of decoration in this enclosure, but I have personally never seen it because it's always been so webbed up. She's in the same enclosure that she came in when I bought her, and they live in a very, very arid environment, so humidity is definitely not an issue with these guys. I mean, honestly, with her, I top her water dish off when she needs it. I don't overfill or mist any parts of the enclosure. I just give her water when she needs it, and they do fine in an arid environment. Apparently, they're notoriously hard to breed, but I'm not going to mess with that right now. So I'm going to try to feed her, and then if she doesn't eat, we're going to move on so this video doesn't run long. All right, let's see if she would like a roach. She molted here pretty recently. Nope, that was just kind of a leave me alone response. She molted pretty recently, and she's eaten a couple of times since, but these guys can go through a bit of a fast, if you will. When they feed, their feeding response is super awesome, but they will go through long periods where they don't eat, especially once they mature. So we're not going to get that out of her, but we got to get a good look at her. And another reason why they are so popular in the hobby, those stunning colorations, it's just mind-blowing. And that's what first caught my eye with these guys. Also, they're pretty docile, but, you know, I wouldn't say handleable for the most part. Her, since she molted last, has been a bit kicky. And she only does it, like when I take her enclosure down to do maintenance, I unsnap both of the snaps on her lid. And then she waits till I've got the lid raised a few inches, and she does one long, quick kick of hairs. And so then I have to put the lid down and let them settle and go back in, and she's fine from there. But absolutely stunning species, very hardy and very easy to care for. No special humidity requirements or temperature requirements. If you're comfortable, they're comfortable. Just make sure they have a water dish and food and some anchor points for webbing, and you'll do just fine. So that was the GBB, Chromatopelma cyaneopubescens. Let's move along. Alright, so next up is another absolutely stunning species. Unfortunately, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that on display for you on camera, unfortunately, because she is quite a bashful spider, but you may recognize the web tubing as the work of a pink-toed tarantula, and you would be correct. This is my Carabina Versicolor, highly suspect female. And the Carabina Versicolor, when I started in the hobby, were known as the Avicularia Versicolor, but quickly changed over to the Carabina. They are all in the pink toe family. Absolutely stunning species. They are an arboreal tarantula living in northern Brazil, French Guiana, and Suriname, which are two small countries that, of course, border northern Brazil. Now, with this one over the GBB, when I do my maintenance weekly, I fill her water dish, then I will spray her substrate, and then the webbing, and I do that once a week for my more humidity dependent ones. The rest of them I just fill their water dish, maybe overflow it in a corner or spray a certain part of the enclosure. But this is one that I kind of missed the entire enclosure. Seems to do fine. Like I said, she's very bashful and pretty docile when she's out, but she's just so, I don't know, she's just always so bashful. She'll always be up here with her legs and everything out, and then as soon as she knows you see her or you touch her enclosure, right down in there she goes, and that's the look you get. So unfortunately I can't show her to you, but you can quickly get off this video, Google Carabina versicolor, and understand real quick like what I say about how stunning they are. Very easy care, another hardy tarantula. Like I said, the only thing I would do is just kind of increase the misting in the enclosure and keep the water dish full and keep them fed, and they'll do just fine. So there we go. Let's move along. Alright guys, before we move on to the next tarantula, I want to make a correction on that last one so I don't spread misinformation. I said that the Carabina versicolor was from northern Brazil, French Guiana, and Suriname. I lied. That's where this tarantula is from. The Carabina versicolor lives in Martinique, which is an island in the Caribbean Sea. That's the only place they live is on Martinique. That's why they're called the Martinique pinktail. This beauty right here, this is a rare sight. I actually hardly ever get to see her. Again, I say female because of the growth rate, the size, and the appearance. And at this point, as long as I've had her, the absolute lack of hooks or bulbs. This one here is why I latched onto it, is because they look like, kind of like a miniature GBB. So I started doing research on these guys. I've had this one for probably 3 years. This is the Dolo Cathely Diamentinensis, or the Brazilian Blue Dwarf Beauty. As I mentioned, they are from northern Brazil, French Guiana, and Suriname. And they are, as you can see, heavy webbers as well. I think they live in environments very similar to the GBB, you know, the undergrowth and underbrush. And absolutely stunning species. Temperament-wise, this one right now is actually kind of defensive. I'm guessing she's probably in a pre-molt, but she has been a little pissy over the past year or so. Not OBB, I mean OBT pissy, but kind of New World OBT pissy occasionally. I don't hardly ever see her because she's hidden in, see that little hole right there? That's kind of a window into her little web-covered skull, which is where she usually lives, and I hardly ever see her. And she was actually out and down in this tunnel right over here, and I went to move some of this webbing, and she started to throw a threat posture on me, so against my better judgment, I poked her out, but it was a good thing I did, because now we got to see her, and you can see she's no longer disturbed anymore. Another very easy to keep species. They're a little bit on the shyer side. Very similar with the Carabina versicolor. When you fill the water dish, spray the webbing to keep the moisture up a little more. I don't ever try to really fine-tune the humidity enclosures in enclosures because it invites mold. It doesn't matter what kind of substrate you use or what measures you take. If you keep something moist, you're going to get invite mold. So what I always do is just spray down a section of the enclosure or the webbing or both, and then on my drier species I'll just kind of let the water dish overflow, and they all seem to do fine. So there we go. That was the Brazilian Blue Dwarf Beauty, the Dolo Cathely Diamentinensis. Let's move along. Unfortunately, this is the only view that we will get of this tarantula, and honestly, it is absolutely the best view of this tarantula. But before I get around to that, I'm such a dummy, guys. I didn't have my notes in front of me. I misquoted you guys again. The Dolo Cathely Diamentinensis that we just saw in the last clip is not from northern Brazil, French Guiana, and Suriname. It is from Brazil. I couldn't find any pinpoints as far as like what area, so apparently it's pretty common in Brazil. This species, however, is limited to the northern Brazil, French Guiana, and Suriname. This is the Ephiopus murinus, or skeleton leg tarantula, and looking at the markings, you can see why. They are a fossorial tarantula, and this is one of 2 or 3 of my fossorials that is truly fossorial. I mean, she lives underground. Now, a few times throughout the day, I will see this. On occasion, she will come out and kind of roam around. But other than that, this is all you ever see of her. With her, when I water, I will spray down her tunnel and let some of that water kind of trickle down the tunnel. And then, of course, you get this view here. I do have a water dish in there. I don't know if she ever uses it. And then I just feed her every once in a while when she's up here like this. Really easy to keep species. Not really defensive or anything like that. So, I mean, if you like the looks of these guys and don't mind only seeing them every once in a while, then this would be a good one for you. But that was the Ephiopus murinus, the skeleton leg tarantula. Let's move on to the last one. Just out of curiosity, nope, she doesn't want it, but she did give us a quick little flash look at her. Okay, I tried. Let's move along. Alright, so last but certainly not least, this tarantula right here. Although beautiful, it's not much to look at right now. Actually has not molted yet, and it's another unsexed but highly suspect female tarantula. This is the Grammostola pulchra, or the Brazilian black. They are from Brazil, and I couldn't get any exact locations on where in Brazil they live, so they must be pretty common in Brazil as well. Another very hardy tarantula. Very, very slow growing, so just be aware of that. And pretty easy to care for. With this one, what I do is when I fill her water dish, I just overfill it. You'll see there's still some dark spots of substrate here, and that's about all she needs. She hardly ever moves around, but she's still eating. You can see how huge her abdomen is, but she's still eating. I bet you it's been a year and a half or better since the last time she molted, and it wasn't a sexable molt, unfortunately. So yeah, these guys are super popular in the hobby because of their black coloration. Like I said, she's kind of dull and not much to look at now, but after they molt, the striking black color, solid black and shiny as hell, and just absolutely gorgeous. And they're also extremely docile. It's almost impossible to get these guys to kick their urticating hairs, which has earned them the name the Black Labrador of tarantulas, and is another reason why they are so popular. Very easy to care for, like I said. No special temperature requirements. They are a terrestrial tarantula. When I rehoused her, I put a cork bark and everything in. She did what she did with it, and she's been like this ever since. So pretty easy to care for, and again, very docile, but be aware they grow very slowly. Sometimes it takes them up to 8 years to mature. I've had this one for at least 3 years, spotted at a 1/2 inch, and it might be 3.5, approaching 4 inches now. So just be aware of that. Very easy to care for, but very beautiful and calm tarantula, though. That was the last one for this video. I want to apologize again for the misinformation. I will put down in the comments all the species and where they are from. And again, for not doing a video like this for a while. It actually takes quite a bit of time for me to do a video like this, even though the quality's not that great and I don't, edit and all that stuff. It's all raw shot. But I have to go over my list, figure out which ones I've done videos on, pull the last 5 that I haven't done videos on, and then do research on them so that I can give that information to you guys, and then, of course, give you my experience and all that kind of stuff. My experience with all of these tarantulas in this video, they're not too bad, so they would be decent to a moderate beginner species. Hope you did enjoy this video and that I didn't bore you too much. I'm going to shut up because I'm running a little long and it's time to go fix a little supper now. Hopefully I can get another one of these videos out pretty soon. I've got some rehousings and some other stuff coming up, so don't give up on me. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves and each other. God bless.